Welcome to Service Design Drinks. I think we met a few of you in the AirMeet networking features. Hi. So I'm Dee. My name on here says Service Design Drinks Berlin because of the way I set it up, but my name's Dee. And I've got two of the other Service Design Drinks Berlin co-hosts with me, Adam and Marty. And there are two other co-hosts, which we'll introduce ourselves a little bit in a second. But also, welcome to Jeff Humble, who is actually Jeff and Hannah, but on the screen it just says Jeff Humble. Hi, Jeff and Hannah. And it's such, Marty, did you change your shirt to match? You're the only one that's mismatched now. You have to see, I even have a yellow beanie that I could have worn as well. Damn it, I should have. But yeah. So welcome everybody. So at the moment we're using AirMeet for the first time. So there might be a few things that we're getting used to, and we'll kind of instruct you on how to use stuff. But how it works is there's networking. If you just joined now at the last minute, then you maybe didn't see that, but there are networking features, and then there are the live kind of speaking sessions, which you're watching right now. So during the networking, you can join a table. You'll see after this this kind of fireside chat session finishes, you'll be able to still network with each other for about 20 minutes or more and join different tables or different chat groups. And then there's also a speed networking feature at the top that you'll see again at the end of this session, where you can click it and then just get randomly paired with someone and have I think it's a 5-minute chat, and then do like a little roulette thing where you get another person. So it's really nice because when we're all sitting at our screens behind our laptops, when you go to meetups, you don't really get to have good conversations. So hopefully AirMeet is kind of solving that. So I'll tell you about some features as we go along. At the moment, first, you can get into the chat. You'll see some things down the right sidebar of your AirMeet window. So in there, you can see chat, where you can type things like if we're having the fireside conversation and having a chat and someone mentions something, or you can even say, hey, I've got a good resource for that, and share a link. That's really great because at the end of the session, maybe next week, we'll send an email with all of the links and resources and things that everyone shared. So you'll have this nice list of resources and community kind of sharing vibes. So use the chat to ask, to post things like that and tell the speakers how awesome they are. And then you'll also see a questions button, which we'll use specifically during the talk so that you can actually ask questions and vote for each other's questions. And we'll have a nice list to go through to ask back to our guests, Jeff and Hannah. I don't know if you can change your profile name, Jeff or Hannah, to say Jeff and Hannah instead of Jeff Humble, because it feels a bit rude. Sorry, that's my fault because of the way I set it up. But yeah, so we'll get started and kick off the event with, hopefully this works. Oh.
Here he comes.
Okay, great. So welcome to Service Design Drinks Berlin. For those of you who have been with us before, we do kind of, especially for the people who are just joining, we do kind of different topics each month. Each month we have a talk. Sometimes it's really specialized, sometimes more general career stuff, sometimes really talking to experts in particular fields and seeing their processes and their way of working. And we do lots of different kinds of things. It's called Service Design Drinks. When we used to meet in person, we would provide the drinks, or the sponsor of the venue or the place where we were would provide drinks, but hopefully everyone has something at home, glass of water, cup of tea, wine, beer, something, so we can still feel a bit social and like we're having fun, a fun event. So grab a drink if you don't have one already. And a little bit of information about this event. It's a lot about information and learning from other people, learning new methods and tools and mindsets and ways of working. But there are some things that we really care about including in this event that aren't just it's not just about the information and sharing tools. And those are things like making sure that everyone is welcome and everyone is able to be included in some way, including speaking. So if you actually have something you'd like to share or a topic you'd like to discuss or a presentation that you'd like to practice, please reach out to us, because we really love making sure that we're open to anyone who wants to participate in the community. It's about meeting people, which is also why we've tried AirMeet for the first time this time, because there's that networking where you can really actually talk to each other a bit more and have a bit more of that connection feeling. And of course, about sharing and learning, practicing speaking and coaching, and having drinks together. So hopefully that's what you've all come for. And if not, hopefully that's still exciting for you. This is a little bit about who is behind the organization. So I'm one of them. I'm on the end there, and I'm doing freelance product service designy, UXy consulting stuff at the moment. And then we also have Marty. Marty, would you like to just do a quick hello? Or you've gone off the screen now, you don't have to. Yeah, Marty and Adam, do a quick hello and just say what you do quickly.
So I can start really quickly. I'm a senior interaction and service designer at Fjord. So I do also service and UX interaction-y thingies, like Dee was saying, but at a consultancy.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Marty. And Mela is also with us in the meetup, but literally AirMeet only lets you have one host and two co-hosts in the settings. So Mela, I'm so sorry. Hello, we love you. Mela is a senior strategic designer at BCG Digital Ventures, and she would be on this screen as well if the settings would allow it. So that's Mela. And then Adam, who are you?
Yeah, I am now, as of last week, a senior service designer at Zalando, which is fantastic. Great organization. If you want to come work for us, please write in the chat or write me or come network with me. If you're looking for a work or job in which to be resilient in, then please reach out and we can have a talk. Thanks all for coming. Yay.
Yeah. Awesome. So that's quickly about us, and we just literally do this, run this meetup and do other community events. Like some people might know us from the Global Service Jam as well, which Jeff, one of our guests tonight, has been a part of also and organised the last Global Service Jam in Berlin. So we do a lot of community stuff, and we just do this for love and passion and yeah, as along with our kind of money full-time jobs. And the biggest welcome to tonight's special guests. They're both the founders of the Fountain Institute, which we're about to hear a little bit more about what that is and why it's more meaningful and different to other similar things you might have been a part of or seen in the past. And they are Hannah Baker and Jeff Humble. Would you guys like to say a quick hello?
Yeah, hey, so I'm Hannah. Yeah, from the US, but moved to Berlin about 3 years ago.
Yeah, Jeff, also from the US. Me and Hannah actually met in Austin, Texas about 10 years ago. And yeah, we're excited to talk tonight.
Yay, very, very excited to have you. And yeah, I've known Jeff for 3 years, 4 years. 5? Really? Actually, I think it might be. Four. Yeah, maybe 4. And Hannah, for as long as you've been in Berlin, I think I met you really soon after you arrived. Yeah. So known Jeff and Hannah for a long time, and it's really awesome to be kind of sharing the knowledge sharing and meetup vibes. And Jeff and Hannah have their own meetup as well, which I attended last month, and it was really awesome. So really great to have you on board with ours this month. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to get right into the fireside chat part now. So we're going to have like 30-ish minutes of having a few themed topics from a lot of the things that people, the questions that people asked us when they signed up for the meetup. And so about 30 minutes of the real fireside chat part, but the reason it says 45 there is because we want you, all the people who are here, the audience, to ask questions as soon as you think of them. So if Hannah and Jeff are talking about something, talking about mindset, talking about challenges they face, talking about things, and you like, oh, can you tell me more about that? Or how did you do this? Or why did you make that decision? We'd love you to write in the chat. So look on that right sidebar of AirMeet and see the questions icon. So if you open that and type any questions into the chat right away, then we'll try and fit them into the conversation so that we keep this kind of themed flow going, even though we can't see all your faces and not everyone can speak in this kind of presentation format of the event. We'll see your questions and read them out and kind of have a bit of dynamic going. And then after that, just for the last bit of the meetup, we'll have more of the social networking where you can join those kind of chat tables, or do the speed networking where you can just meet one person at a time and have a quick 5-minute chat and then meet someone new, and both really fun community features. So yeah, put your questions in the chat really as soon as you think of them, and that will make the kind of question asking and the fireside chatness part really work. Okay, so Hannah and Jeff, are you ready for the first discussion topic, fireside chat topic of the evening?
We're ready.
Fire's ready. Fire's rolling.
You've got the fire. You're really fireside to have the chat. This is awesome. Thanks so much for setting that up.
The campfire version.
Sorry?
The campfire version.
Yeah, the campfire side chat, which would be really nice at this time of year to sit around a cozy campfire with marshmallows. I wish we could be there, but I'm just looking at your background, wishing and closing my eyes and trying to experience it myself. But cool. So first campfire side chat topic is, what is career resilience? How do you define it? Because I know that's a big part of what you do, which we're going to hear a bit more about as well. So what is career resilience and how do I get it? And we've asked you beforehand to kind of help the conversation along by putting a few images with each of these topics to help with the discussion. And these are the ones you've placed. So what is career resilience and what are these images that you've put there?
Well, it says maintain connections, learn versatility, and get a big picture perspective. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that we've talked about a lot and thought about with other designers, with junior designers, senior designers, and thinking about kind of what does it mean, especially in today's day, to be resilient. And I think a lot of it comes down, for me at least, to thinking about like a generalist versus specialist mindset. And so I think that's kind of thinking about what are the skills that I can gain at this moment that then can be transferable to a variety of areas, because things are moving so fast with technology and expectations of what design is and where it should be going or where it can be going. And so being able to be flexible in those areas.
Yeah, and we said maintain connections, because I think we could say build connections, but I don't think you should be asking so much of yourself during a global pandemic. I think maintaining is enough work as it is. But you know, your next job, especially if you've already got your first design job, it's going to come from someone you know in the field. So maintain those connections, especially telling them what you want to be doing, what you're up to. I think that's always really important. Maybe you're afraid to say that, but you know, the whole resilience thing, maybe 2 years ago, we'd be asked, what's the cool new technology we need to be learning? But in downturns and times of stagnation, in the economy and things like that, we think about resilience. Like, how can we stay adaptable to things that are happening, like what happened in 2020, right? How can we stay adaptable to 2020 is pretty much what resilience can get you. So yeah, these are some of the things we found can really help to make sure that you're not stuck or that you're not kind of lost when times change.
Yeah, and I also think it has to do, like a lot of these three aspects we put on there also has to do with like looking at your past experience and looking at the past skill sets that you have and how are they, how can you use them in a different industry or in a different position, and thinking about like the variety of ways that like they can support one another too. Yeah,
like our coaching calls, what we do with students and when they finish the course, it's like, okay, what are the things, the dream jobs you're interested in and what skills are involved with those jobs? And can you learn one skill that's helpful for 3 future dream jobs, right? So you can make sure that you're staying, you know, prepared for the future no matter what, and, you know, potentialities as well.
I feel like an awesome example of that is maybe just your own kind of story, which I'm just connecting this now, but maybe you're both have spent years in the kind of design community, working as creative people, but also doing things like understanding your customers and users and knowing the methods and processes with which you can make decisions based on like understanding your customers, doing interviews, all these different types of things, too many to mention. But now you've started this new thing that's all your own, the Fountain Institute. And I feel like, tell me if this is wrong, but a lot of those skills that you learned and honed and kept growing and adapting over the time has actually been an invaluable experience for actually doing what you're doing now, running your own business and your own thing, where it's not just solving another project problem that you've been given, but having the tools in your toolkit to actually start your own business. Is that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, especially for me too, where it's like I am newer to the field of design than maybe Jeff has been. So my background stems from fine arts and sculpture, and then into education within museums. And then I transitioned later on in my career to design. And when I left the museum education world, I kind of thought like, I will never use the information that was accessible or useful to me in this world into my new venture. And then realizing that that's actually the knowledge that is like so helpful and like our secret weapon, we feel like sometimes. And so for me, it's like, I thought I like packed that information. I used to say like, I packed that knowledge and that skill set in a box and hid it in the bottom of my closet. And I never thought I was going to pull it out again. But like, it definitely is what has like supported me and helps me in this area.
That's also something we found from like doing UX research before this venture. It was that everyone wants their past experience to be useful. If they can find a way for it to be useful, they will look for it. And we all do that. We did that, of course. But yeah, it was super interesting when we were having our chats like a few years ago, and like she was coming from the art world, I was in the design world. We were like super heavy in those scenes. And like you would call it critique and I would call it feedback. And it was like the same thing, you know. It was just really wild seeing that like maybe like the art education and design education is really not so different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that like goes through like a lot of industries and a lot of positions where like maybe we're just calling the skill set by a different name, but it is actually the same like skill or mindset. You just are shifting the context that it's in. And so these are the kind of skills that I think can be super helpful in being resilient. So like I was facilitating activities and workshops in museums, but those skills that I learned are so helpful for me with my clients, but also within the education field too.
Yeah, like
classes.
Asking the right questions. It helps when you're having a meeting with just one person. It helps when you're in a workshop. It helps in so many situations. So yeah, that definitely was there's a lot of soft skills that are similar in a lot of different fields. So I think in times of downturn, like, can I learn some soft skills that are super important? I think is something worth considering.
Yeah. And I love the point about maintaining connections as well, and like not pressuring yourself to have to constantly build new connections. I really love the way you word that. Actually, that's the first time I saw that kind of, that's the concept, instead of like always be networking and building connections. And yes, that's what we're doing here today, but is also kind of networking. But I really love this example of, and even last month, or what was it, 2 weeks ago at your meetup, I used the speed networking thingy in Airmeet, because you guys use Airmeet as well. And I wasn't trying to network and build connections, but I met someone and we just like, what do you do? What do you do? And we realized we're doing kind of similar and complementary things. And then we had a call like last week afterwards to just catch up and talk more, like, hey, is there something we can maybe do together? And just having that. So maybe if people are here today watching and participating, even without having this goal of like, I have to network or build connections, maybe there's someone you meet here today who couldn't be just like, oh, they were nice, but maybe that's someone just worth like catching up with or talking to again. I love that. Is that what you're
it's kind of working with us, actually? Yeah.
Yeah, because also like, just like you're changing and shifting and growing, like the connections that you had 5-10 years ago are also shifting and changing and growing. And so like there's value in that, and there's trust there that you build, and trust, especially even now and like where everything's virtual, is like, I think it's harder to obtain and build in an authentic way. And so I think holding on and nurturing those relationships that you had and is important.
I've heard a lot of people say, if you're going to found a company, find a friend you've known for a long time, because then like you don't have to get to know each other in the process of a difficult process. And I mean, I don't know, you also need to work well together, I think. But But like me and Hannah started when we were just friends before, didn't even know we were necessarily in the same scene of film. And then when she moved here, we just started meeting and talking, like, and it formed this. That was like 2 years ago. So if you have someone you like talking about the same thing and you get along, that is a really good opportunity to do something together. Quit your jobs and make your own jobs.
And it might not necessarily have to be like, okay, if you meet someone you really talk about the same stuff with, you can start a business together. But it could just be like, I don't know if you mean this by maintaining connections, but like check in with that person even when there's a global pandemic, because at some point in the future they might be working at the company that you want to work in, and it won't be a forced like thing. You'll have maintained this connection. Is that the vibe that you're going for?
Yeah, that's definitely a part of it. And I think also a part of it is that like if you are working in a similar industry, like maybe like it's like somebody to commiserate with, or who can understand like the struggles that you're going with at your work right now. Like if you don't have a lot of other designers on your team or something, then maybe it's like, I need some quick feedback, or I want to just like bitch about this thing that like nobody else understands at my company. And so like I think there's such a wide variety. Like yes, it's like maybe they'll have like, maybe I can like further my career, but I think it's more so than just furthering your career or starting a job or starting a company. It's like, it's just about like what that can build to.
I like that when Hannah introduces in the guild of working designers, like we don't let anyone who's not a designer into the group, and it's only meetups for designers. And she's always saying, what is it, to commiserate together?
Right, it's a activate, commiserate, and something else together. Yeah, like the idea is it's like we're here to like push each, like fully like lean on our shoulders and step on us, but then cry together and all these other things. Yeah. It's like a variety of different things.
Oh my God, I love that. Yeah, there's a bunch of different things that you do. I think, I don't know if we'll get to it later, but you just mentioned the Guild of Working Designers. Mm-hmm. So yeah, do you want to maybe mention all the things that you do, and maybe later we'll also take a look at them in case people all put the links in the chat too.
Yeah, so right now we have the Fountain Institute, which we in 2020 launched our first course, which was advanced UX UI design for the real world. So working with working designers and looking at like mid-level, like in the middle of your career, and supporting you and doing that. But we also, once you're into that, have a community of designers that we offer coaching calls to, or coaching sessions with, after they've completed the courses. And then we have we're calling it the Guild of Working Designers, as Jeff mentioned. We're really trying to really just be a community of people who are working in the field, so that we can kind of have talks and meetups and hopefully some more community around like what the issues are that we're talking about and thinking about, and using things like AirMeet, like you guys are, because of the ways that you're able to form like authentic connections and talking to, because I think I miss that a lot from real life meetups, is like that's what you don't always get on a Zoom call. Yeah,
being founded in 2020 also means you're really good at live online events. Things like this, we try to do as much as we can to make it feel like you're in a real meetup with the tables and things like this. I think it really helps.
Yeah. So in the next section, I've got to like zoom, not zoom out, but like put you guys on full screen for a little bit so we can really feel the fire vibes. Before we move on to the next topic, we've just got like 3 or 4 themes to chat about. Before we move on to the second one, there's a question from Renzo, but I'm actually not 100% positive that I understand it, Renzo. Maybe you guys can also read it. Can you click on, Jeff and Hannah, click on the questions panel. Renzo says, fully agree with the resilient skill set framework, but from the organization side, how do you think organizations are ready to open to T-shaped people? So Jeff and Hannah, I don't know. I feel like I don't fully understand, Renzo. Maybe you can also type in the chat, Renzo, if you're there to clarify.
Yeah.
I
mean, I think our thinking with, learn generally, but learn versatile in a versatile way. We've had a lot of discussion about generalists versus specialists. We always fall more on the generalist side for a large number of reasons, for sure. I think when it comes to should I be can I be a generalist and it be okay at work? I think that your boss and your company probably doesn't care what you call yourself. They care what you do. They care about your output. So I think that's much more important. Like titles can get distracting. And a lot of times the titles we use for ourselves are a bit more like personal branding more than they are like being effective at our jobs. And there's also a huge difference between your business card and your LinkedIn title. So being aware that some people try to become more expert in a certain thing in order to get different jobs and leverage these opportunities, which is a smart thing to do if it works for you. But I really think there's a lot of skills I've seen as a design manager, and then I've seen talking to lots of graduates of design boot camps, which I was involved in my last job. They're just already like from out of the gate looking for a specialization. And as a hiring manager, that's a red flag for me. Like what I want to see is someone that matches the job description. I've never written a job description for a VR designer yet, So it's personally my own bias, I think, in a lot of ways. But I don't know, I see a lot of people who took a big leap towards like iOS designer and things like that. And maybe they're, jumping too close into some sort of technology that doesn't work out. And in reality, they're just learning how to design for screens, a multitude of sizes. So I don't know, I think in order to be a bit more future-proof, I think it's good to be conservative with jumping to a specialization.
I really like that advice. Marty, did you just pop up yeah.
There was another question in the chat from Enrico, and he asks, why did you decide to focus on teaching?
I feel like we actually have a whole question topic just on this, right?
Yes.
I think it's coming. Yeah. So I just realized that just as you read it out there, Marty, because I was thinking that too. So let's keep going, but I think we'll have a whole section just answering that question. And so, yeah.
Just before that, Renzo is clarifying.
Oh,
and let me read out. Yes, I tried to clarify. I meant, are organizations open to hire a generalist instead of a specialist? Are recruiting processes and hiring processes ready to do that?
Yeah. I would say there's always two people who are looking at your job application. There's the HR person who doesn't know anything about design, and there's the design manager. And I think there's a trend towards multidisciplinary attack teams in the past 10 years. This is an innovation that's been working at a lot of big companies. So there is, I think, a trajectory in the design field to be more generalist, because if you're the only designer on a team of 4 or 5 people, you're going to need to know how to do it all. So I see that already. Like, I've also made the mistake of when I was able to build a team, I tried to build specialists, and it didn't work for them because they didn't want to be a specialist in that category that I hired them for. They wanted to try a lot of different things. I think variety is the spice of life. So they weren't happy, and then we ended up moving into more generalists, so that from my experience, it didn't work. But when we moved to these multidisciplinary attack teams where we're like trying to make a number go up and really focusing on this kind of new way of working, it didn't work as a specialist because you do so many different things. So there's that as well, motivating this. And
I feel like in one of the little networking tables before, we were saying that like, even if you're a generalist, but you're applying for a particular job that's a specific thing, I just go on my LinkedIn and change my LinkedIn and put in my CV. Like, I just mention the things that are really specific to that role. Even if I'm a T-shaped person or a generalist, which I think I am, you can also just be seen from the hiring manager as the right person for that, the perfect person for that job, because you just mention how good you are at the things that they're looking to get. Only if it's true, of course, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next section so we don't run out of time. Okay, so your professional journey. From each of you, we asked you to like put some relevant emojis that felt right for you, just so we can get to know you a bit more and your journey from your whole journey through the fields that you've been up to today.
I didn't see Hannah's till now. That's amazing. I actually, for my study, I actually chose an I post knowing Hannah because I did graphic design at university, and she was talking to me about a lot of the elements and principles of design, things like layout, things like training your eye, right? And I was just kind of like, in university, I learned to be a graphic designer. I didn't become one. What a waste. And then I realized after talking to her that I did kind of learn a lot of those fundamentals in like the art, building of my school. So I thought that of course is helpful now to me when I'm trying to do an Instagram post or design a website. Like, there's still the same fundamentals in that. So that's helpful. First job was technically a gardener, then a farmer, because I grew up in rural Arkansas. But then my real job that I got was an internship at a tech company that was like 15 people in Austin, Texas, which ended up being like 1,500 people. And so kind of got to ride a nice wave of that, just doing product design for 5 years. And then before that, I had like a job working on a ski resort. as a parking attendant, which is the best job ever. If you ever burn out, go do that. You just take money from people and give them a ticket and they park and you just go snowboarding when you're done. It's amazing. Waiting tables also added because Hannah and I became friends when we were waiting tables, actually. Between starting our careers, we were waiting tables on the side. So doing a little service design for restaurant customers. And then today I feel like I'm just sort of doing this for my job. It feels a bit like being a professor when you can do it from anywhere in some ways and all kinds of stuff. So
I love that. I love how there's so much randomness, and so it sounds and looks disjointed from the outside, but
it felt like
all those dots really join up in the end. I love that message. Cool. Hannah, what's your journey? What's the lipstick? I know what the lipstick is.
I'll get to that at the end. Yeah. So I studied sculpture at a fine arts school in Baltimore. And that was a really kind of amazing experience because it allowed me to understand like what it could feel like to be an artist, and that's valuable and a legit option to go down. And I did that for a little while, and then wanted to go back to school. And I come from like a family of educators, and so I wanted to like work in education, but I didn't want to work in the school systems. And I thought museums would be a really amazing place to do that. And so I went back to school and got a master's in museum education, arts education. So that's kind of what my studies are. My first job, though, was working at a cashier at a health food store of my parents' friends owned, because my parents are old hippies. And so, but then the random jobs are when I finished grad school and I was looking for jobs in museums, because it's really hard to get into museum ed in the US. I actually Uber drived for a little bit, and then
relatable.
And and bartending. And so I feel like a lot of those jobs, like as Jeff said, service jobs, are just like thinking about the idea of interaction and customer service, which has like led to a lot of support for me throughout my career. And then I worked in museums and working in the education departments, forming like curriculums for K through 12, so like kindergarten through 12th grade, and doing tour activities where you're facilitating knowledge through activities with the students and the audience in front of the artworks. And a variety of other like interactive learning around the exhibitions. But then I also have a fine arts practice, and that's what the lipsticks is about. I've been working on this project recently where I make ceramic cast lipsticks that have sound modules in them, so they have like narratives that speak out of the lipsticks. So that's why that's on there too.
Yeah.
Wow, I haven't seen those. I have to see them. Amazing. And yeah, I think it's really interesting to see the journeys of, especially if there's anyone watching right now in the audience, which I'm sure there is, because I'm one of them as well, that you're in the middle of doing something, or maybe you've chosen a path, or maybe you're trying to choose a path, or if you're right in the middle of your path that you chose and you're having this like, did I choose the right thing? Am I taking the right steps? Do I know that this decision will lead me to where I want to go? Do I even know where I want to go? If anyone in the audience is having those kind of thoughts, which I definitely in the past and even today still like stand back sometimes and ask myself, then I think it's really nice to see the journey of people that maybe you see like, okay, these people are running a design education course and community. Surely they must have been working their whole lives building every single decision clearly towards this moment, right? And it's really nice to see that, just like you said before, Jeff or Hannah, or maybe both of you said this, that you can always use the experience that you've had in the past to be useful in some way. And I think we saw that from both of your journeys, just hearing about both of your journeys just then. And
yeah, I think it's important to be honest that you want to use that experience. Like, I think it's inherent in us to want to make that experience useful. So don't fight it. Like you have probably. I worked with Dee actually at Career Foundry, which is like a design education company. A lot of late life career changers, and they'd come into this new job, this new course as a designer, changing their career with all this other experience, and they wanted it to be useful. And we always talked about like, we'll really think about that story. Like, what is the connecting thread, you know, like, and that's the big picture perspective. It's zooming out. And, you know, maybe looking at ours can help you zoom out and see a little bit, but someone else you can just tell them your experience, and they can also help you build that big picture perspective.
Yeah, it kind of takes the pressure off having to every decision to be the perfect right one that's going to lead you to some point in the future as well, right? Like, just
I mean,
the decisions you make, it'll probably lead somewhere. Go on, Hannah.
Well, I was gonna say, like, we've done like podcasts that we talk about our career paths, and it sounds so button up and nice, and that like every step was like a conscious step of building it, and like, you know, this like ladder that I'm just like climbing, and that like the arc is like really great. And I forgot to mention that I actually transitioned into design and do branding design and website design now. But like, so I started that back in 2017. But like, like all of those things, like, it seems in hindsight like such a clear path, but like when you're in it, it feels like a messy thing that you're like grabbing at and don't know like how necessarily always how to move forward.
Yeah, we like the research we did before we started the course, we kind of also like one of this kinds of company wisdom thing was like that, you know, everyone wants to make their past experience useful, a lot of interviews and stuff, but also we kind of learned that career kind of exploration never comes as an arc that just goes up positively every single time. It's just waves, you know? Sometimes there's an up wave, sometimes there's a down wave. And you have to be understanding of that realistic kind of nature of life.
It's so easy to see the waves in hindsight, but it's hard to tell when you're in the wave at the time. Okay, I see a few questions in the chat, but I'm still going to go to the next. Oh wait, this one's really related to this slide. From a question from Konstantinos. I'm curious to ask. Do you know who that is? No, familiar name?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. I'm curious to ask Jeff and Hannah what emoji they would use if there was a fifth category 1 year from now.
Oh, good question.
God. Emoji.
Huh?
Yeah, that's what I was. I don't know what emoji for.
We talked a lot about an in-person element once that is available, and a lot of it is based around a summer program. We want to run. We just talk about. We want to run residencies for designers. So when you are overworked, when you need a sabbatical, or when you just need to switch up, when you need something different, sometimes you can get some time off from work, right? So we want to run maybe some sort of more sustainable project, or something that's, you know, good for the world, where you kind of come out working together as experts without sort of like guided curriculum, and you come out with a portfolio piece in a field that is difficult to get a job in, like something like speculative futures, or, you know, conceptual projects, something like that you wouldn't normally do on yourself, and which is hard to find. Like, there's a lot of big problems in this world that don't have clients. So can we take a summer residency to try and
have it be like bringing experts, or like, experts together, bringing a variety of maybe specializations or generalizations, and having them work together in a physical space and kind of build something from that.
We just support them.
Yeah.
That sounds very exciting. So maybe like the little like family emoji or something with like
sunshine and summer.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide just to keep things going. And so this is the question that I think the other questions, kind of the questions in the question panel, will get covered in. So this is, what made you get into design education? Almost exactly word for word the other question that someone asked. And what does the Fountain Institute actually do? We've kind of talked around it a little bit. Maybe you can give us a bit more input on that. And here's the kind of images that you put on there. And then after we've talked a little bit, I might like stop sharing so we can see your faces in the big screen. But yeah, tell us about these images as little conversation prompts to answer this question.
Yeah, so I mean, I talked a little bit about like why I got into education in general, but like that also stems, and what these images kind of relate around, a lot of them are like when I was in school and growing up, like I have dyslexia pretty bad. And so reading and communicating through verbal language and written language is not like my best avenue. And so I kind of realized through my own path that like art education was where I was able to communicate my ideas and show my thinking and build confidence and all these other areas. And so that like is a lot of the reason that led me to like the path that I explained previously of my journey of like why I went into art education in general. But I think what's interesting about like why I got into design education specifically is actually a lot of the conversations that I had with Jeff after I moved to Berlin, because hearing about like UX design and the like mass similarities in my mind to museum education, where you're building and designing an experience of like, and figuring out how they move through an experience and building knowledge together without like verbal cues or through a variety of different areas. That like combined with the art side of it, where like the art practice of like figuring out conceptual art pieces is so much about research and testing and prototyping. And like, there was all these similarities in like the design process that I saw in the art process and in the museum ed world. And I was like, oh, this is actually the space where I can do that all together. And then there's also this image of Black Mountain College, which is this college that was in South Carolina in like the late 30s into the 50s that was really influenced by Bauhaus, and it was about building, it was like an alternative education where like it was about building community. They lived together, they built the things together, they built the buildings there and stuff like that.
Sorry, I just faces.
Oh. Yeah, and so like all of these kind of things were like what I really wanted to do, and I found that like I wasn't able to pursue those in the systems of schools and the systems of museums. And so like I saw this opportunity to really move forward with that in design education. And like that's why I wanted to pursue like building something myself. Yeah.
Yeah, that book's a nice bridge, because Hannah turned me on to Black. She turned me. I'm in flames. She turned me to Black Mountain College. What's interesting is I knew about Bauhaus. Who doesn't? Like every designer rips off the aesthetic of Bauhaus. But I didn't know the philosophy, the principles of Bauhaus, which Hannah was kind of introducing me to, and since we started this project, doing a lot of research on. But then she introduced me to Black Mountain, which is where a lot of Bauhaus professors went after World War II. And I always loved Buckminster Fuller. He's one of my favorite designers. And Victor Papanek, actually, the course is named after him, Design for the Real World. And like these two had a lot of things in common that we're pulling into the company, you know, and Black Mountain College was kind of avant-garde education, you know, so I got excited by the things that she was introducing me to. But for me, design education was just, it was a job. So I wanted to move abroad, and I actually worked with Dee at Career Foundry, and they were hiring, and I was looking for a senior UX position, and it worked out. And was there for like 5 years, right? So through that course, I realized that my love for talking about the design industry and practice with other designers is something that's really helpful in education, because you're trying to understand what people want when they're hiring, what are they looking for, where's the field going, and I always love those kind of conversations. And there's an image on there where there's a person who's kind of like a nervous system, like looking at different levels. And I never had anybody growing up, because I grew up in rural Arkansas. Like until I moved to Texas, you don't have to show it.
Oh,
before I moved to
wrong thing.
To
This one.
Yeah. There's like these 3 levels, right? And for me, growing up, I could barely even see the first one. I could barely even see that blue circle. Like there was nobody in my family that I knew who was into design, much less UX design or anything like that. It wasn't really even a thing. So I kind of had to figure it all out myself, and then get my first job, which I think was pretty lucky that I got it. And I had a really good mentor there. And then I really just enjoyed like working with people, and then when they found a job, working with them, like just having beers with people and talking about how they're doing, and like offering some advice, but also just listening, and talking about what should change and what shouldn't. And for me, that's what I also get to do a lot in this course, is we do coaching calls, right? And I love talking to people about like what we just said, like, what are you interested in? Like, what can we do to turn that into something that you are excited to show up to work and do? So for me, it's like hopefully offering something I didn't have when I was 18, 22, 25, all these times when you have all these like 35, all these like these paths that fork off, and you really just need to talk to someone who's been there, or you need to talk to someone who's been to a different path. Like, I think it's important. So for me, I enjoy that part quite a bit.
Yeah. I really love hearing you both talk about this. We've just like talked actually today about lots of this, or rather I really heard these stories from you. And I wanted to, Hannah, do you want to tell this story that you just told me today? And I was like, oh my God, you have to repeat this tonight at the meetup. And I've actually got, will this work? Yeah, I got, this is the Fountain Institute. Sorry, I'm just going to be scrolling around. This is the Fountain Institute website, and this is you'll see a lot of the images that you've just seen here, and there's the style that Jeff just talked about. And this is the logo / symbol, right, of the Fountain Institute. And I was asking you today, like, what is this? Why is it this urinal kind of device, the Fountain Institute logo?
Why do we have a urinal on
our website? Why do you have a urinal on your website? Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah. So this is based off of Marcel Duchamp's The Fountain, which Marcel Duchamp was an artist in the turn of the 20th century?
1920s.
1920s, yeah. And so he is coined, or like thought of, even though there's actually some controversy over whether it's him or this other woman, but as to not go too much into detail, of like, he did these things called ready-mades. So taking objects that were not made by the artist's hand, so in this case a urinal, and submitting it to a exhibition, and that the idea was that he was kind of thinking about and continued on throughout the work that he was doing, was that like the artist's hands don't have to make the work to it be a piece of artwork. And so he was redefining and starting to redefine like what is the definition of an artist, and what like responsibilities does the artist have in the making of objects necessarily? Does the artist have to make the object in order for it to be considered art? And like, is it about the object, or is it about the concept that goes into the piece? And so he was fighting for and promoted this idea, like kind of the birth of like conceptual art in a way. And that like, this was, he wanted to redefine what artist was.
And as someone who did graphic design and fell asleep through almost every art history class, I was aware of this image, right? And she was talking about how Duchamp redefined artists to be more facilitators of meaning, and to think about like the interaction between the audience and the art. And I was like, that is so UX design right now. You know, like trying to redefine, he called, old art retinal art, like it's just for decoration and beautiful. And I was like, that's exactly what sort of the UI to UX thing is. So it was like, then she realized that basically 100 years later, designers are kind of doing the same thing. So we thought also it was a subversive act for him to do it. So we thought it's pretty subversive to just make this our logo. So.
Yeah. And I love
and we also don't like, take ourselves so seriously. So it's like, Obviously. It's kind of nice to have it like, be like, we know this is also, there's a urinal.
I might have hidden some things in the logo you don't even know about.
Yeah. I love the general, I think we've got to move on to the fourth and final topic soon. But I feel like the message behind this whole topic of career resilience, this meetup topic is about career resilience, but and then everything about what you're doing, I think, is about career resilience, like educating and building networks and communities, or helping people have a different, or understand that there are different mindsets to being a designer other than just, should I choose UX or UI kind of thing. And I really love that this philosophy and this mindset has gone into really changing the way you've presented design education to people, and not just, hey, this is the way you should do education, but this is the way you should be thinking, or this is the way that, what's the phrase that I remember you guys saying today? It was like, designers should be hired not because of what's skill they have, but what was that?
Like, we want to like create a world where they're hired for the way that they think, not for
what they produce.
Yeah. I love this way of thinking. It's the first time it's kind of really hit me as this is the way I could be focusing my career choices, or the things I choose to grow, and as just growing the way that I think, growing and adapting and changing and building new ways of thinking rather than new skills to add. Yeah,
that's our podcast, it's called Beyond Aesthetics, because it's really, how do you move beyond aesthetics if you're a designer, and what are some examples of some people who have done it? And that's
yeah. And that for me, such a clear relationship to the art world. And so where it's like artists, a lot of times contemporary artists are making work about like translating or communicating a concept or idea. And how do you understand that concept or idea? And in my mind, there's not really any like difference with designers. Yes, there's a practicality of it. And yes, you're solving problems and there's all these other restraints, but it's still about communicating an idea through an output.
Yeah.
So
I really like having this kind of mind blown by head. My mind was kind of expanding as I was talking to you more today. Okay. Cool. I'm gonna move. Sorry, having trouble switching between tabs. Here we go. The last topic, and this is, I think, a really interesting one. But before we go on to actually answering it, I think Marty and Adam, I guess you're listening, my other co-organizers of the meetup. I think we were going to do the fireside chat and then do a 20-minute chunk of people networking and using those tables and things to chat, and then come back and wrap up. But I'm thinking, pop on the screen again now and tell me if I'm getting something wrong here. I'm thinking we could just finish the fireside chat, wrap up, and then give people kind of an open-ended time to network after that. And just let people chat if they want to. Can you?
I'm all for talking.
Sorry, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm all for unlimited talking and communication.
There's no holes in this idea. Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to double check before changing the plan that we had in mind. Awesome. Okay. So, Jeff, and you guys can stay on the screen if you want to as well. So Jeff and Hannah, did you ever sabotage your own design career, and how? And I think we had this question, kind of this topic in there because of this whole topic, like things that we do, decisions that we make to try and really, it's all this pressure on the choices of how we develop our careers, and super sabotage mistakes don't have to be that bad. Doesn't have to be that much pressure on what we choose to do and exactly what path we take. But this is kind of maybe some hopefully funny, I don't know what's coming actually, but hopefully some interesting stories about self-sabotage. And
right, you don't know what's coming.
Yeah,
that's true.
Okay, so these are the images that you put up there. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I didn't know what image to really put with this. I was really thinking about I've definitely thought a lot about how have I sabotaged my own career in general, throughout life and different areas, and where mistakes I've made and what kind of shift and change that has made. But I was really trying to think about specifically within my design career. And when I was starting off, as I said, I had this background in art and I had this background in visual communication, and I translated that into designing websites and brands for people. But when I started off in Berlin, I didn't have a network. And I was freelancing, and I took this job with this quote unquote design agency, even though it was this one guy who I don't think had any design background. He just had marketing background, and he was an artist. And he paid me at almost bare minimum. I actually think it might have been lower than what he was legally allowed to pay me in Germany for the amount of hours I was working. And I didn't have any confidence in myself, and I didn't have any couldn't speak up for myself. And so he was directing the flow and the direction of these products, and I knew that he was doing it in the wrong way. And I knew that he was not running, he would just give me be design a website about CrossFit, and that was it. And and I wouldn't speak up for myself. And so then I made these things that he wasn't happy with, and the client wasn't happy with. And so then I was looking like I didn't know what I was doing. And I was looking like I wasn't, didn't know how to time management myself and how to make these projects happen.
You had guilt from it somehow.
I had huge guilt from it. And then I realized I was I do know what I'm saying, and I can speak up, and I should be asking for a whole lot more money, which is And so I feel like I really was sabotaging myself in that moment where like I wasn't like I wasn't standing up for myself. And I think this has a lot to do with people who are like transitioning into freelance or transitioning into the career, especially females who like never ask for as much money as we should. We're too afraid to ask for like what we're worth. So yeah, that was like kind of the thing that really stuck out to me for this one.
It's amazing how much money you can have. It's not just about greed and like what I deserve, but it really changes the way you feel about yourself and your work and your pride in yourself and your confidence. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the thing is, like, me and Jeff were actually starting to work on the Fountain Institute. And what I realized is like, it wasn't about necessarily like, I didn't like have a lot of money in my bank account, but it was like, I didn't have the time to work on the projects that I wanted to work on. And all of a sudden I started valuing what my time was. And I was like, it's not actually about like what the rate I'm getting paid. It's that like, I value my time more than anything else. And I wasn't having it.
Oh, amazing story.
So
yeah, Jeff, thank you, Hannah.
I wanted to talk about designers' first online portfolios. So I've been meaning actually to write a blog post about this thing, and I haven't done it, and I probably never will. So I don't know if you knew, but you can go to Wayback Machine. It's a website that basically archives the entire internet. So I looked at my online portfolio when I first put it up in 2011, when I was finally applying to freelance positions after university and doing band posters for my friends. So I was like, oh, cool, I'm gonna have to find a job. So this is my first portfolio. It was on Tumblr. So my first online portfolio as a designer was on Tumblr. And if you look at some of the posts, the images don't always work, but I'm posting about something. I made a fake. I was like making fun of design, the second one. And then the third one is just like a picture of Mila Kunis, who I liked at the time. So like, this is what you would have seen if I'd applied to a job at this time in 2011. I ended up getting a job at a company that was doing social media marketing, putting tweets on TV. So I don't think this helped though. I basically, there's nothing to do with this. This didn't get me any jobs. I probably missed out on hundreds of them. So I'm sure I self-sabotaged by putting my Tumblr as the homepage for my portfolio. So don't do that. Please don't do that. But actually, we decided to look at a couple famous designers on the Wayback Machine. So if you go to the next slide, Dee. We have on the left here, Don Norman's first portfolio site from jnd.org. You can see he's standing and he's got like some weird links. To the right, we have Jeff Gottholf's author of Lean UX. And he's giving himself some interesting titles and describing what those titles mean. So none of us is above making up titles and explaining them to clients. I think he's like an information architect, which makes sense. And there's two other I've never heard, systems analyst, whatever. And then our favorite, bottom right there, that is Jake Knapp's portfolio site from 2011, and it's called The Napperture because he's doing his photography. So just a reminder that when designers who are famous or even just senior give you advice, it's because they didn't follow that advice and they went a lot of different directions.
If anyone there's people, like we often have people coming to service design drinks that might be really just getting into design or like just seeing like, am I interested in this service design thing? So if you don't know these names, like Don Norman is almost like known as the godfather of service design and user-centered design. And Jake Knapp, the Napperture, this is great, was the creator of the design sprint, the Google Ventures design sprint. But I actually didn't know the name Jeff but I know the book Lean UX. Yeah. So this is a really popular book really popular book in UX, like Bible almost. That's amazing. Yeah. So the lesson is, I think, that even if you make a kind of maybe poor decision in how you present your profile portfolio or kind of who you are and what you do, it doesn't matter. You can still be a famous designer. I really like the theme, which I wasn't expecting, that's kind of coming out, is that taking the pressure off decisions is a big thing. It doesn't mean like you can make whatever decisions you want and you're always going to be a famous designer, but often I think it's the fear of making a choice or making a decision, or should I go this way or that way, or do this thing or that thing, or should I invest my time in this or that? The decision itself maybe isn't the most important thing, but doing it and seeing what happens and then going from there. Yeah.
Experimentation. Yeah. It's so important.
Yeah.
Like, we let companies do it. We say, fail fast. It's all good when a startup like does a pivot. But if, the designer does a pivot, it's like, what's wrong with you? But that should be okay too.
Awesome.
Obviously, the aperture is not what
oh
Jake
my God,
doing
yeah. I had no idea.
I tweeted at him. If you know him, tell him I'm not a stalker.
Didn't you tweet at him or something and we're waiting to see if he replied?
Yeah, he responded.
Yeah, okay. I forgot there's one more question. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm so sorry. I thought there were only 4 questions, but it looks like there are 5. I just clicked to kind of do the wrap-up slide. This is the last question. How to make online education impactful. And also, we've got 2 questions in the question panel as well, which are...
We're going to post these anyway. So we're going to post these because we've done a lot of work in online education, online design education. And these are some things to look out for when you're picking courses and you're trying to... So we'll post those on our Instagram. You can find them in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we'll also be writing some more articles and about going in depth into how to because these are kind of negative, but how can you fight it, or what can you do to combat it, or how we at the Institute are doing something differently than these to kind of set examples and talk about how we can be better in the design education world. So we're happy to have conversations with people about this outside of this venue.
And how can people have those conversations with you? The Instagram, for example, maybe Marty and Adam can find the Instagram and links and stuff in the chat, but tell us.
Yeah, at the Fountain Institute, the website's thefountaininstitute.com. We actually have, for people at this meetup, we're going to let them be able to just book a call with us. So for 2 weeks, you can book a call. In the next 2 weeks, you can book it here. Yeah. So you can talk to us about anything. There's some prompts in there, but it could just be like, hey, I'm considering to leave my job. Is it this? It's feeling pretty bad. Is it bad enough? Should I leave? Or I want to work at this new place. What should I think about? Or I don't know. I want to know how to take a good course online. Just book it. We're happy to talk to you. So we're going to do that for anybody who can use that link below.
I really love this. This is I didn't realize you did this before I would talk to you today, that for people who do the Fountain Institute, the Advanced UX UI course, you have these as part of these coaching calls, as part of the service that they get, literally just having this one-on. It's impossible. It's so rare. You can't just call up as senior designer with all this different varied experience and who's also been a hiring manager, is also educated and really this huge wealth of different experience, and just have a chat with them and ask them the questions that are on your mind. It's such a rare thing to have access to. So thank you so much. It's really, really nice that you're giving away your time. Jeff and Hannah are kind of giving away their time. I'm really glad that I have been friends with you and know you. This is a really nice thing to do.
Book up in the next 2 weeks. Why not? We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So if anyone is in watching who has these thoughts or questions or the kinds of things that we've been talking about, it's I've got this specific situation though, and I want to ask about this particular thing. This is a pretty rare opportunity where you can kind of have a free coaching, advice kind of call about design career stuff, which is really awesome. Thank you. Cool. So maybe we can put, if we didn't already, you can put that link in the, that particular link in the chat of the AirMeet so people can click it and open the tab. Maybe Jeff or Hannah or Adam or Marty yours. Thank you. Thanks, Olga. Awesome. Thanks. It's really nice. Okay. So thank you so much. That's the end of the fireside chat section. Oh, wait, there were a couple of questions. And we've got kind of a few minutes, but I think you might have also kind of covered them. Or maybe this can be just quick fire questions. In the question panel, when you mention versatility, do you specifically mean hard or soft skills, or is it related to any other context too? Yeah. What's your?
We were thinking versatile as a designer in a multitude of industries and multitude of customers.
Yeah. Okay.
I remember when we were exactly talking about versatility, but like in reference of like soft and hard skills, I think it's both. It's good to have a variety of both of those. Like,
I guess we're kind of using generalist and versatile as a kind of same,
yeah.
maybe not necessarily.
Yeah, I think that I have a feeling that question was referencing the first kind of topic of career resilience and versatility and being the generalist question as well. Awesome. And then the second question is, the last question is, where is the UX field going at the moment? Where exactly? Tell us where. Tell us the definite truth of the future, please. Or where do you think?
Well, I think it relates to like, well, I don't know. Okay, I'll tell you my.
We know from experience in the course, right? The students, like what's happening with them, I think.
Well, okay, I'm curious of what you're going to say. You go first.
I see. Well, we have a particular bias to the two classes we've had so far, and they do a stakeholder map week 1, some systems thinking to understand what is their working organization. So that's a unique look for us into a bunch of organizations. I worked at 2 places for 5 to 6 years each, right? So I didn't get a lot of look at a lot of different organizations. So this has been really interesting. I see a lot of lack of communication. So I'm looking forward to seeing maybe the lockdown and a lot of the daily stand-ups happening online, meaning that like we're kind of time boxing a little bit better. Hopefully we're bringing our developers in earlier. We're communicating with the people, the product and business people. I honestly think that most of the students who do the stakeholder map don't see how disconnected their stakeholders are until they look at it. So yeah, I think I'm excited to see a little bit more connection between different people and design.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I would really have to agree with that. It also started making me think about this conversation that we had recently about like I'm thinking about further in the future, and I do think that like experience design is going to be moving past a 2D screen. And so where is it, like, how does experience come within like a 3-dimensional space? And I think we're like far from that, like in a commercial or job sense, but I think that we are moving in this world where like screens will not just be on a 2-dimensional plane. And I think that is also something that like thinking about the relationship to like installation artists and museum like and experience or like designers, it's like where you're like really thinking about the interaction that happens not just on a 2D space.
Yeah, also every UX designer is now calling themselves either a strategic designer or a speculative conceptual future designer, blah, blah, blah. Like I see UX designers trying to call themselves something new, business designer, strategic designer, blah, blah, blah. I don't really see the companies keeping up with that. I see a lot of aspirations. And I think I like that because I think that they want to do more. And a lot of this is very like good for the world kind of work, especially in speculative futures. But I'm really curious to see what comes from the practical job titles. Like when the dust settles, what are they going to call themselves when they learn a little bit of business, a little bit of futures thinking, that kind of thing. I don't know. I don't think UX designers are happy calling themselves UX designers. That's going to definitely change things.
I'm 100% with that sentiment. I really want to figure out what to call myself. That would be really nice to have a clear name. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff and Hannah. We're just going to wrap up and then give you a really final big thank you. I'm going to come back to this networking thing because first we're going to say, woo, thank you very much, especially Jeff and Hannah for spending their time with us, being with us, and especially offering that your extra time doing these calls. If any one of our community and audience wants one, it's incredibly generous. And our next event is going to be with Mark Fontaine, who is so this one, if for people who are asking before in the networking, like what our topics normally are, we do general topics, we do like career-focused topics, and then we also do specialized service design-focused topics and tools-focused topics. So next month is going to be a really kind of service design-y topic with Mark Fontaine, who created servicedesignjobs.com, which maybe a lot of service designers have seen, and also the new Service Design Show. So that's really exciting. Keep March 3rd in your calendar. And please, before actually, maybe we don't have time for this, but this got something to announce, I think we'll do in the networking. So if you've got jobs or looking for work or an event that you're running or something you want to announce to the community, stay and join in the networking, which I'll just explain exactly what to do, even though I think it's pretty clear as well. But before that, I'll just say that, yeah, if you want to join us for that event next month, if you're not already following us on one of these channels, please do. There's Instagram is where we maybe post the most, and then if you go to sddberlin.com, you can actually join, get a monthly newsletter from us, which is really mostly just telling you about the next event and then giving you the links and resources from this one, which, by the way, Adam and Marty, before the Air Meet closes, can you please copy all the links and resources that were shared in the chat? That would be awesome. And I think that's the end, but now I'll just introduce the networking. So we're going to close this event. Thanks very much, everyone, for coming and staying, but please stay a little longer, even if it's just that 5 minutes till 8 o'clock if you have dinner plans or other plans. But we're going to leave it open for longer to go back into the networking features so you can actually talk to other people in the community, maybe meet someone that you might work with in the future, like I did at Jeff and Hannah's meetup last 2 weeks ago. So you can join. The way it works is you see these tables. You can literally click to join them. That's pretty clear. So you can kind of see if people are sitting around the table and just join and have a chat. Even if the topic is not exactly, you don't have specific questions, you can still join a table with other people in it and just see what other people are doing, see who they are, see what kind of work they're doing, what companies they work for and stuff like that. And you can try this speed networking, which is really fun, and randomly just connect and have a really quick timed speed chat with someone else in the community. So these will appear as soon as this session actually closes, and you've got 5 minutes, or we'll leave it open probably for about 20 or 30 minutes just for people to have a chat. Jeff and Hannah, are you able to stay around for like 10, 15 minutes and maybe join? Especially, there's a table there that we called, it's actually called, what do we call it? Advanced UX UI design. So maybe one of you could pop in there for 10 minutes or so. That would be really nice if people have any questions. Thank you. And otherwise, that's it. Thanks very much for joining, everyone. Marty and Adam, you can come and wave goodbyes if you want to, but you don't have to. I hope you all enjoyed the talk, and I'll see you soon in one of the tables and the group chats after, so we can actually all see and talk each other. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Thanks, Jeff and Hannah.
Thanks.
See you in the tables. See you in the networking features below, and see you next month. Bye, everyone.